Good afternoon. My name is Billy Powers, and my co host is Faith Brashear. We now have a wonderful new show called Lady Hawk with Renee Weiler. Renee Weiler is a wonderful woman in my life, and she has done so much research. And so we are very proud to have her on our platform of Whistleblower Pie. Today, her show is called Dirty DAs. And we can tell you unequivocally that many, many, many of these DAs across the country have been in derelict of their duty. Thank you, Renee, for your new show, Lady Hawk. Let's hear from you.
Well, thank you very much, Billy. Renee Francis Lillian Powers. I am so happy to have you join me. Today, we're going to be talking about all of our efforts to inform DAs in multiple counties about real estate fraud involving identity theft. And the reason I started out with your full name, can you tell me how did I say that right? Billy Renee Francis
You
Lillian
sure did. I
Powers.
know.
Can you believe that that
It comes from
identity has been stolen? Yes.
and each of those names have been used sequentially together and separately on different identities that I have found throughout the areas I've lived. So, yeah, names are a big deal, and people need to pay more attention to the oopses they get in the mail that may say, "Oh, that's not the way I spell my name. Oh, they made a mistake." There are no mistakes in the way they spell your name when it comes to the documents that come into your mail. That's my thought.
You're absolutely right. I have many different identities, and sometimes it's just a little switch of, for instance, I'm Renee R. Weiler. I am a period Renee Weiler. I am Annette Renee Weiler. And now Walter sometimes, my maiden name. So we have so many different names that they use to steal our identities. And I guess we should start out by telling our viewers how long we've been SEC whistleblowers. For me, it's been since March 10th of 2014 is when I began my investigations on the Bank of New York Mellon, or better known as the Bank of New York Mellon trustee. And the legitimate company is the Bank of New York Mellon Corp, right? And both of us have been victims of having our identities stolen and our property, our deeds stolen by the fake trustee.
Yes,
Go ahead.
and I started in 2012 with Jane Norberg, and I think her name was Leslie Wharton, and they were the first ones I started with at the SEC. Also, Richard Delmar, who was the lead whistleblower attorney for the Treasury, so at the OIG. So in 2012, although I had had previous conversations with multiple um, agencies, in 2012 I began my recognition as a whistleblower. And so you and I have blossomed our resume of whistleblower content due to the extra people we've had to send to the extra corps, the CFPB. I began CFPB in 2010. I believe so. And then I know you've had all of that. We've had FTC, we've had the FDIC, we've had, you name the organization. And I know, Renee, between you and I, and back and forth with the work you've done and I've done with you, we have hit every agency that can be imagined, including even state bars and state and accountability agencies for all of them too.
You forgot to mention the FBI special agents that we had on our cases. I would like you to tell us about the one that laughed at you.
Oh, good old Thomas Ritz.
Yes.
Ritz writes, I'm still not quite sure how his name is said, but I had been given instructions on the phone by the FBI to go into the field office here in Orange County, California. It was over behind the city mall at that time in Orange County. And when I went in, I took my box of documents, and I only took one box, even though I had multiple, like we all do. We can fill a storage unit. And when I got in there, I was met with this gentleman who was probably about 6'7". I kid you not. He was very, very tall. And he took me into a room and began talking to me. And I wasn't trying to be rude, but I asked him, how much experience do you have in title and real estate crimes related to documentation and to the theft of homes? He kind of went quiet, and I said, do you have it? And he got very irritated with me and actually stood up, put his hand on the table, leaned into me, and said some things that I won't repeat here, but very much put me, as a very small woman, under duress at that point. And I apologized to him, and I started to show him some of the boxed evidence, of which I knew at that point he didn't comprehend. And he stood up. He threatened to physically throw me out of the office, scared the bejeebies out of me. I literally said, I don't know why you are so mad at me. I'm here. I was told to come here. So I left because he really did scare me. And first of all, he threw me out. Second of all, I was scared. And first of all, between there, both first, last, wherever, I was scared of him. He was a very big man. So, and you know, when people don't have answers, they get very mad. And he felt inadequate, I believe, and he felt belittled, and that was not my intent. So I went home very shaken. Um, and I remember sitting at the ranch just wondering what the heck just took place. And so I called the office back, and this man answers, who is supposed to be the head of the real estate fraud division, which it turned out he was, Thomas Ritz. Thomas told me, don't worry, Billy, we apologize for what happened there. That shouldn't have happened. Get your information, send it to me. I will look into this. Now, remember, Kamala, excuse me, not Kamala, Kamala Harris appointed this task force in California with the FBI. And Thomas Ritz was basically the head of the FBI real estate task force for Kamala Harris that time. So I was excited. I thanked him for his time. I began sending him documents, and he told me, just send me the documents that prove recording fraud, that prove forgeries into the county records. And I said, oh, great. So I did that. A year later, Jack Suddy was my private investigator at the time. And also, he worked with us in the California 18. I mentioned to Thomas Ritz when I called, I said, well, my private investigator, and he shut me up very bluntly. And he said, you have and I said, yes. And so he took Jack's number, and he called Jack. About 20 minutes later, I got a phone call back from Jack, maybe a little longer. And he said, I don't know how to tell you this. That guy just laughed. He said he never looked at one document you sent, and he laughed that you thought that he would, and destroyed and literally there was no investigation, as I was promised. So being as you are, I want to know, who is this guy now? I really thought I was trusting someone doing a job, but obviously in dereliction of his duty. So I started research and found out that Mr. Ritz had been undercover for 5 years in Newport Beach, California, of all places, living the high life on our tax dollars. He was living like a millionaire, driving fancy, expensive cars, all in an investigation into a man who they had alleged was committing mortgage and financial crimes at least. I can't remember whether it was mortgage at this point. Well, anyways, this gentleman finally got arrested, indicted. They only got him on $100,000 transaction. It was minimal. There was nothing. And I thought to myself, 5 years of our taxpayer dollars went into that. So he laughed at me. And then when you and I spoke, we joined efforts there and sent, I believe it was the SEC, wasn't it, that we sent our evidence of dereliction of duty for these two FBI officers. And I know we also sent it to the FBI directly too, because we have letters for that.
Right.
So, and it went to the district attorneys. So the dirty DAs know that we have been, yes.
So you had also talked to District Attorney John Min, and I know that I sent over, well, there were 41 emails to him in regards to your um, real estate fraud involving tax evasion. It is tax evasion when they um, record the mortgage assignments years after the closing. That is a red flag for tax evasion. And when I was looking through the emails today, doing a little review of all the emails from John Min, I noticed that Leanne Atkins was in there and she had select portfolio servicing information that I sent to John Min. You have the select portfolio information of evidence of tax evasion. And so do I from Leelanau County. We all had select portfolio servicing. Is that correct?
Correct. And it ties to the bogus Bank of New York Mellon as trustee.
Right, exactly. And that was a fabrication, a fictitious company that we have been investigating for what, over a decade? Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. Uh-huh. Yeah,
And so there's a man
if
in
it's not
jail.
over, it's close to.
And now we're finding that our friend Janet Hill in Fulton County, Georgia, has the same fictitious trustee that has stolen her house. And I believe it's an Asian who is a beneficiary of or is on title to her house now. And you have a Ukrainian entitled to your house.
Yeah, All Rice Capital, Mikhail Trubchik, who is the CEO of All Rice Capital, who have already been kicked out of Nevada for violations and misrepresentations as a mortgage lender, which they never were licensed.
Right.
And they're also in a lot of controversy over the Bitcoin operations that in Washington and South Carolina, I know those two are currently ongoing. And they also are tied to bankruptcy improprieties, buying properties out of bankruptcy as if they are the purchaser, when in fact there's other funds behind them that are associated, from what others are finding, to Russian ties to associates of Putin. So we, between all of this, to have foreign investors ties on our properties, these DAs, John Min, remember he opened this. I had sent an IRS notice of criminal activity based on the tax evasion. And John Min, the Orange County District Attorney, was CC'd. He contacted me. I sent him evidence, and then he called me and said, you know what, let's calm down, be clear, concise, and just send me things in order. Do it. So I did. I sent him, I walked into his office with a full 7 binders in a clear bin, clearly numbered, and in order for him to have the what he needed. Also, as you too, there was thousands of other documents. But as soon as I handed him that, you and I spoke. You sent information, and then we also had multiple people come in behind my claim once they heard I had an open investigation, sending him their verified firsthand facts of knowledge in evidence. So yeah, so dereliction of duty by these DAs. And remember, Orange County, San Diego, LA, and Riverside DA's offices are tied to the secure recordation, of which the DAs are ignoring all the forgeries and counterfeit of.
And that's tied to us here in Leelanau County through Fiddler Technology and what is the other one? Tyler Technology.
Simplifile, Simplifile,
Yep.
and
That,
Simplifile, which
yes.
is ICE, which is
And they
owned by
all
ICE.
tie into the secure recordation system. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, secure interfaces with all of it.
All of
And
it.
so,
And
yeah, so
now we are finding in Michigan that our voter registration system, Eric, is also tied in there somehow. Are you aware of that?
well, I was made aware of that. And I know back in the day when we were doing research on voter fraud, not more so, not voter fraud, but voter systems, voter online technology. And that is when, about the same time, I was sent the patent on the Winston software, which is the Octopus software that leads all the way up to the DoD and combines all of these um, systems into interfacing all the way up to the DoD. So when what you were finding, and then with my findings, and we married them, these district attorneys we thought really were going to do their job. I
Then
really thought
believe
Joanne
that.
Mann was.
In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I sent 1,000 pages that was released from a subpoena from a local judge here, Robert Cooney. In one of my identity fraud cases, he allowed me to subpoena Fidelity National Finance. And what we found out in that 1,000 pages, this was the three of my mortgage customers file. I was a mortgage broker. I am a former mortgage broker prior to the mortgage meltdown. And what we found out there is the title companies did not even sign my lender's title insurance policies. And this was throughout all of this paperwork. They didn't sign it. So when I went to claim 3 lender's title insurance claims on my customers' properties, because they're all have forgeries in the chain of title, they said, "Oh, well, we're not gonna we're gonna deny this because your local title company here in Suttons Bay, Corporate Title Agency, did not sign them. So their attorneys did not sign my policies. So that's a big problem because I paid tens of thousands of dollars for those policies, and they are worthless." So that's
And
one of the things we found out. The other thing we found out from that subpoena is that when Fidelity has a lender's claim, they will claim the records in the Register of Deeds. They will say, "Oh, well, these, they're usually fraudulent mortgage assignments. These are the assignments on records, and we're going to go by that." So in doing that, they were giving credibility to the fictitious company that Patrick Joseph Soria created, called the Bank of New York Mellon Trustee. And then we saw when they reconveyed the property, the same property, to the squatter, the trespasser, whatever you want to call them, who bought the wild deed, they omit those. They take those off the title abstract so they can reconvey it to a new party. So that was a big secret that came out of the subpoena that I have. But then we also had the big secret that none of us knew about, and that was the Fannie Mae Signer letter. Can you explain how that works?
well, the Fannie Mae signer letter, basically what it's doing is we know under the 1787 Northwest Ordinance and other land laws, and lawful and legal, that the government can't own certain properties. They have a right to forts, ports, et cetera, et cetera. And but they can't own private property. And so what we realized is that something was going on, because as we would go through our cases, we'd find that, well, why is it this is actually heading towards a government agency? What it is because the what is it called? FHMA agreement, correct?
Yes.
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 What it is literally hiding from the populace the actual investor, as they're calling themselves, as claiming they are the secured party, which is the government. So we have companies like here in California, Wolf Law Firm, which was one of them on my property, who are now out of business, by the way. But they were entered into this contract. And basically, what it says is you are entering into a private secret contract. They did use the word secret,
Yes.
that covers the fact that the government is the party of interest on
A
the
true
backside.
party of interest in every one of the Fannie Mae mortgages. In fact, they say in the one paragraph that I actually read in a court proceeding here in Leelanau County, and I was muted for reading paragraph 6 that said, this tri-party agreement between the government, state bar attorneys, and Fannie Mae is a confidential agreement, because if this were ever to get out, we would have serious due process and constitutional rights violations. I mean, they say that in there.
Yeah, they give you exactly the laws they've broken and why they should be held accountable and go to
Right.
jail.
Yes. And so I actually called up David Green from Fannie Mae in Chicago, in the Chicago office, and I said, "Hey, I need you to authenticate this." In fact, I might even have it in email because I put everything in email as well as calling them. I said, "Can you tell me if this is authentic?" Because it came from a Massachusetts Supreme Court filing by the Honorable Attorney Deborah Brown. She put that out there, and I actually sent that to the U.S. Supreme Court clerk in support of the Brunson brothers. So the Supreme Court clerk has that secret agreement by the government and the taking of our lands. That's what they say in there. They say the taking of lands.
Which
Um,
under the taking clause is huge. And this
right,
also, every DA we've dealt with has had this document handed to them on their desk. So
exactly.
they have seen it. They have, again, the DAs who see this document and continue to allow for the takings of lands and title and trafficking of title are not only in dereliction of duty, but in essence, they are conspiring with the guilty parties
They
and
are
are
aiding
guilty
and
there
abetting
themselves.
is what they're doing. They're aiding and
Mhm.
abetting, because I gave my 1,000 pages to the sheriff. Really awesome guy. He's our constitutional sheriff, Michael Borkovich. He gave it to one of his most brilliant younger deputies, and he spent several days looking through this, calling me and getting clarification. And he said, "Wow." And he even was questioning his own mortgage with Mr. Cooper, I believe it is. And I thought,
Mhm.
oh no, not Mr. Cooper. But you know all about Mr. Cooper. But he gave all of this information. He spent a lot of time, taxpayers' time, on looking at this, gave it to the prosecutor, Joe Hubble, and he said he's not doing anything about it. You know, he he's not going to do anything about it. So,
Well, and remember Leslie Young, prosecutor here in Orange County, California, assistant DA. The problem we have with her is that for the entire time this case was going on of Powers versus Bank of New York Mellon, where hundreds of people came into it, and as Judge Carter even committed to, dozens of documents and docket numbers sent in by people, dozens of people. So we had dozens of people sending in their firsthand knowledge of facts and evidence of crimes being committed against them into the case, while Leslie Westmoreland, or not Leslie Westmoreland, that's a whole nother issue.
no, this is
Leslie
Leslie
Young,
G. Hers. Make
Leslie
sure you
Young.
get her pronouns
Oh
right.
God! Oh, Leslie Young was working. Now, remember, in Powers versus Bank in New York Mellon, the reason all the people came in, including yourself, was because we were saying we want a civil joiner of criminal action. Because Judge Sledgehammer Carter himself said that if we could show proof, that he would send it for referral to the USAG. Well, unbeknownst to us, Leslie Young, lead attorney in Orange County on the Patrick Soria case, we had Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego, and Riverside involved. And the attorney general came into the case of Patrick Soria, which we now believe and have evidence of the fact that it was the shadow case to kill our first impression case.
Yep.
While Judge Carter destroyed our case, they used Patrick Soria, who ran this across the country, as we knew, and had people across the country coming into this, our first impression case.
Right.
And yet they get their evidence literally destroyed, spoliation on the record. While
My
Patrick
thumb drive
Soria,
was my thumb
Mhm.
drive that I gave to, actually, I sent it to uh, Molly Dwyer, your clerk. And on the day, on the very day that they received my thumb drive with all that evidence, they dismissed your case
Yes, with prejudice. With
with
prejudice.
prejudice.
And
Yes.
so Leslie Young, while John Min since 2021 had all of my information, your information, multiple other parties, criminal evidence of crimes, including Scott Hansen, SPS, Wells Fargo, Bank of New York Mellon trustee. Thank you, Patrick Soria. So we have this Bank of New York Mellon trustee on a first impression case, and they're prosecuting Patrick Soria for the bogus Bank of New York Mellon trustee, and yet destroy Powers versus Bank of New York Mellon and only convict Patrick Soria of wire fraud and one contempt of court. And the only way they got him on the wire fraud was for all the forgeries and counterfeit documents that he used into the land records, of which he had no indictment for. He had thousands upon thousands of dollars of fines and fees due, plus lifetimes in prison for the amount of documents that he uh, proceeded to put into land records and into court records and falsify. So, yet we know, I think it was 12 years he was sentenced to, and he'll probably be out in 8, which he's already been there, I think, 2 years now. So, I
So
did send him.
what happens, Billy, with the, we had 24 parcels that are involved with his fictitious entity here that were recorded in Leelanau County. We have at least, and I think we have maybe another 39 with this Wilmington Trust fictitious company. So I think we have about 60 if I were to say, if I were to approximate. Forged documents.
And that's probably a
by
low
this
figure, but at
conviction.
least you know that you have that.
Right. Now you have approximately how many left to
Well, the Bank
discover?
of New York Mellon, when I went into, because a lot of people don't know, first of all, they also have in your land records, they have ghost documents. They're filings with nothing on them, just placeholders, and they give them a file number. Just so you know, you might want to look into your land records. In 2018 or so, I found 4,600 of them, maybe close to 5,000.
Sure.
Well, when I decided to go ahead, and those are blank documents, mind you, that are recorded by title companies, et cetera, with nothing, no topic included, just a placeholder in the land records, which I brought to the attention of the DA as well. But what happened here is that we ended up with oh gosh, Renee, I'm sorry, my cognitive just went sideways on me.
So what's happening here is that
Let me
we will
finish.
do
Okay,
all
well,
these.
you asked me. Yes, I pulled records. I entered into the system. I entered into just the entity Bank of New York Mellon trustee.
Right.
And when I did Bank of New York Mellon trustee, they only can give you 1,186 documents at a time. And this well exceeded 1186. I could have done it probably 5, 6 more times just within recent years. So we have an issue where Bank of New York Mellon trustee, as a DBA, to give an appearance of a trust, which has been closed for almost over 10 years, maybe 12, 13 years now, to give an appearance of standing to, just like Patrick Soria. And many of these are Patrick Soria involved. It's a pattern. But yes, I had 1,186. I could have kept going for hours, but I stopped there and just said, look, we got 1,186 without even a try of these Bank of New York Mellon as trustee.
So we struck out with getting anyone in Orange County, your district attorneys, to do their jobs. We have struck out here in Leelanau County with our prosecutor who believes all these crimes to be civil. In fact, if there's any deed fraud, he just says, go find yourself an attorney. And he's getting a paycheck. He's running for another term. He's unopposed. There's nobody here that would really even wants to run for a prosecutor. We're a very small rural county. And so we've got problems here that aren't going to be addressed in our deed fraud, in our register of deeds. Yours are not going to be addressed in Orange County. So now we're in Fulton County. Georgia And this is really interesting because we've got a feisty woman down there in Georgia who is not going to be quiet, stay silent when another foreigner comes in and steals her deed. And her name is
Correct.
Janet.
Janet Hill.
Janet Hill. Tell us all about Janet Hill.
Well, Janet, I've known for quite some time. She and I are on a board of a nonprofit, Homeowners Legal Rights Together. And so I've had multiple discussions with her over the years. But Janet is a go-getter. She is feisty, but she's also a very soft-spoken, very refined woman. And she believed, as all of us, that, here, I'm going to take this and I'm going to show them the crimes, and therefore we will get help. And she tended to find that she was getting a little more reception than any of the rest of us were. And what's exciting is that Janet now has conversations going on with people. I'm going to just say that matter, because I don't want to tell her story, because I don't want to put anything at risk or in the wrong terms. But Janet in Fulton County, you and I, you really sent in, we collaborated on documents, and you sent in some of the most beautifully written, well intended, and full of factual evidence of the crimes. I did a background check even for you on the local DA, and it was a rather interesting background check. And from what I see, that DA Fannie Willis is even avoiding her own debate. I just watched where her opponent literally debated an empty podium. This is a DA. So when we say dirty DAs across the country, this is part of it. This is a dereliction of duty ongoing. And so, yeah, Janet is right in the heart of some of the biggest news coming out of our country right now. But
Absolutely.
I believe some of the biggest news is that she's making headway. I remember she spoke at a meeting recently in which
Yes,
you were
she
asked to
went
talk
to a
to.
commissioners meeting, and after I gave a legal notice to the chief judge, Cassandra Kirk, and Cassandra Kirk, according to Janet, went to the commissioners with my information of the deed fraud involving, I believe it was Patrick, yeah, it was Patrick Joseph Soria, and all of the deed fraud he has in Fulton County, Georgia, which I can't even audit because they had some kind of a system failure after
Yeah,
we
for a month.
alerted this judge. Somehow everything went down on their computers, and I don't know if that's the case, but we didn't hear this in the news, did we?
Mm-mm. No,
No.
no. What you sent and what Janet is doing, we have a team across this country
Yes,
that
we do.
has been phenomenal. Our national whistleblower team, we've been together now since 2017. And I got to tell you, we have found unequivocal facts and evidence. Now, mind you, a lot of what we have came from people with years past. But like in 2009, we have whistleblowers from the Eric Holder stage, that it was all there. This government that we have and Congress has had all of this evidence for a very long
Right.
time. And
And they also have the
Mhm.
petition of remonstrance in the
Mhm.
Congress. There's no excuses now.
No,
There's no
and
excuses.
38 state Congress now, because Montana just last week filed their petition of remonstrance support for our
Now,
congressional
tell
remonstrance.
us
So,
about
mhm.
you went out to Montana, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Montana took it on, they're actually doing their jobs, and the state is in Montana because they are investigating Patrick Joseph Sorey. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, they had a case against him and they found him guilty. But again, what I am finding with the Patrick Soria case, it is a shadow case, is what my belief is. To
Right.
literally, kind of like this 49 state settlement that wasn't a settlement. that we had that was it was a bogus settlement as well. And for those who comprehend that case, they recognize that that was never a settlement for the people, and it was just a cover up for the criminals. And so this Patrick Soria case in Montana, yes, he was convicted. He was found guilty of doing the same, and that's why the attorney general took it over for the whole country, et cetera. So but with Patrick Soria in Montana, what I found when I went, I was very excited to go, thinking there was more participation and press uh, prosperity in hanging on to the lands and to protect them. But when I got there, I really was shocked and thought to myself, here is another county in Bozeman, Montana, that must have a DA who is just like we found
Mhm.
in Fulton, in Michigan, and in California, because they took money as a smart city. They were designated as one of our country's smart cities. Remember, Lahaina was a smart city and burned down. Now we've got Bozeman as a smart city. Every smart city you and I look into, we tend to find that there's things going on that are actually destroying the integrity of the land, the integrity of the county, the integrity of the republic and sovereignty of the community. And I was shocked that Bozeman. I was so excited because I had my one pair of boots that they didn't steal that I had to take with me. And when I say they, when they stole my home and everything in it, thank God I had my one pair of boots on. But but I went there so happy to just be in rural setting, and I was shocked. I wasn't seeing cowboys. I wasn't seeing cowboy boots. I wasn't seeing horses. I was seeing things like a young woman with different colored hair with a animal carrier carrying ferrets. Um, and I looked at my girlfriend Jenna and I said, Jenna, she's literally got bait on her back. Does she not know she's in Bozeman, Montana, not in downtown LA or downtown Portland? She's putting a sign on her back that says, bears, animals, come eat me. Here's my bait, you know. So we got laughing about that, but I'm not laughing. It's a very serious situation regarding the destruction of the land.
But at least the state of Montana is doing something about it. And I had actually sent quite a bit of my MERS fraud audits and the one that I call the RICO audit that had all of the foreclosure firms in Michigan. I showed how each one of those attorneys had multiple counterfeit mortgages on their personal residence. I sent this to the Michigan Attorney General, and she flipped it over to the Department of Insurance and Financial Services, only for that man, Randall Gregg, I believe his name was, to say, oh, we don't have jurisdiction and I don't see any fraud here. So now we find ourselves in Georgia, in Fulton County. I gave all my information to a legal notice to Cassandra Kirk, who is a chief judge there. She apparently went to her clerk, or well, I think she went to her commissioners and was asking for a new clerk because she
Mhm.
suspected that her clerk was involved. So do you know what's going on with that right now, or can you give us an update? I haven't
I
heard.
don't have any updates. I just do know that for anyone who's been through this, we know that the court clerks are actually running these courts. There's a lot
Right.
of things they're doing that the judges are not even aware of. And when it comes time to the final decisions for the judge's signature to be going on documents, it's actually the court clerk signing for the judge with a stamp or just the court clerk. And in Virginia, last month, I believe it was, Virginia came down hard on that, and they had to remand 1,000 cases back for dismissal. More than that are going to happen. But because of the fact that the court clerks and the judges were not following procedures, of which we know in the court system, when we go in as pro se or as sui juris, our cases are destroyed under usually 12B, which is an anomaly, shouldn't be used all the time. but literally for procedural issues. So here they are destroying our cases, of which we're giving evidence to the district attorneys, to everyone we can talk to, saying, look, procedure wasn't followed on their end, but why is it we're getting destroyed when we're a pro se coming in representing ourselves? How is it procedurally even possible that a judge cannot even sign off on anything, but the court clerk does? So we've known for quite some time court clerks are running the court. And here in Orange County, the court clerk, I can't remember what his name was, right, was removed. So in Orange County, California. So it may have been more than 3 years. But the point being, we now have enough time between when all of us started and people before us started this, recognizing these court clerks as the, I'm going to call them, this may
So
sound weird, but
we
yeah, go ahead.
need to assist Janet in Fulton County, and we need to be taking a very close look at Shay Alexander, the clerk, as well as Cassandra Kirk. She knows what's going on. And what about Fannie Willis? I know she's totally embroiled in the Trump case, but what we have here is a national security threat. Hello.
Well,
Our deeds are being stolen by foreigners.
well,
Uh,
and think of it, she's not even showing up to the podium for her own debate. So this may just end up being something that gets handed to the new DA that's coming in. Now, this gentleman, I don't remember his name, but I just watched him do his faux debate to an empty podium. It was really odd, too. They kept saying, well, what would you ask the podium? He spoke to the podium as if she was there and then did his own response. But basically, we are in a position where these district attorneys in the United States are in dereliction of duty. And as you know, because you're part of the team that's stage 2 of our petition of remonstrance action, we are getting ready to head into that stage. And nationally, we'll be taking action that is going to pull the dereliction of duty into the forefront. And Renee, I got to tell you, the work you have done, and the day you told me, you've done the heavy lifting, now let us take it. And
yes,
you have
yes.
really
You
taken over
did
the
the
heavy
heavy
lifting.
lifting. You did the heavy
No, but
lifting.
now you really have taken it, organized it, and put it into the public eye. And we have not stopped. Florida, remember, Ron DeSantis's office sent me the response. I think it's been almost a year and a half now when we sent Florida a reminder of the petition of remonstrance that they had and what was going on in the land records. And we did get a response from that. I sent you that letter, and I know you followed up with DeSantis's office as well.
I did.
Mhm.
And so now what we're doing is no one is, the boxes are guarding the hen house. So what we have to do is to go down to the lowest level here in Leelanau County. We have our constitutional sheriffs. We're getting them on board to take care of multiple issues regarding our records being altered, whether it's voter records, whether it is the deed records, whether it is here in Leelanau County, we're looking at timestamp alterations on invoices. We've had 5
Yes, here in
financial
Orange County, we found this. Yeah. Mhm. Well, Sherry Hernandez here in Orange County and a few of us others, we noticed that there was some strange things going on with the documents as we were looking into them, because documents would have the exact same timestamp, and it would be at 8 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock in the morning, weird hours of which we knew the land records weren't even open. So you can't get it doesn't get any stranger than that. Well, I can't say that because every time I do, it does. But we found out then, and that's why all of the secure software, now I'm calling it secure, but it's known as Tyler, it's known as Simplifile. All of these software platforms have given a backdoor without risk management to all of the attorneys, title companies, escrow companies that we're talking about. And the problem we have especially in Orange County, California, LA, a lot of the counties, they have what's called risk management departments, or not risk management, excuse me, real estate fraud divisions in the district attorney's offices. They're funded through the recordation of documents. Now, regardless of whether it's a forgery, counterfeit, or real, they're getting a per document, I think it's a $3 fee. And I know it was over $500,000 that was collected just to go to the real estate fraud division in the district attorney's office here in Orange County. And all they got from the Patrick Soria case was like 300 and some thousand in fees and fines, if I'm correct. I know it was very low, but the district attorneys are getting funding for their real estate fraud divisions through the actual documents that we're bringing to them that are fraud. So the conflict of interest for the district attorney's office is if they shut down all the forgeries and the counterfeit documents, they won't have the funding to pay their employees. How much sense does that make? Dirty DAs.
Dirty DAs. And I think we should end this
Dirty
right
DAs.
now. I think we've pretty much wrapped this up. We don't want to give we want to make sure that everybody can see the whole video. I know a lot of people aren't patient and their eyes glaze over when they hear about these matters, but these are matters of national security. And so we need, I mean, it's up to us old ladies here to take care of business.
I got it. I agree with you. And so what we're going to do right now is I want to thank you, Renee, for your Lady Hawk. I'll tell you from the view up top, you look down and you can see documents and you can see a path and a journey that you take with these documents into all of these agencies. And therefore you are literally carrying cases, including myself, Janet, Linda, Rory, all of us together, all of these cases are being carried and continue to go on. And I'm hoping that folks will follow you into Lady Hawk #2 episode produced by Whistleblower Pie. And it's called Trafficking and Sale of Unendorsed Notes. Trafficking and sale of unendorsed notes. And you know a lot about that, Ms.
And we
Weiler.
have that from a subpoena. We have that evidence. So until next time, signing off. Say goodbye.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you, Lady Hawk.